The prophet who inherited fire. Elisha's untold story. The whirlwind had barely vanished. The ground was still shaking from the chariot of fire that carried Elijah away. And there, in the silence, was his cloak, left behind, still fluttering in the breeze. Elisha bent down and picked it up. Everything was different now. The man who had mentored him, called down fire from heaven, stood up to kings, and split rivers, was gone. And now it was Elisha's turn. No one really expected what would come next. Not long after, the city of Jericho came to him in desperation. The town looked beautiful from the outside, but the water was poisoned. Nothing could grow, and people were dying. Elisha asked for a new bowl, filled with salt. He walked to the spring, poured the salt into the water, and said one thing: "This water is healed. No more death, no more sickness." And just like that, the spring was clean. Even now, that same water still flows, but not everyone took him seriously. On the road to Bethel, a gang of young men spotted Elisha walking alone. "Hey, bald head!" they shouted. "Why don't you float up to heaven too?" They laughed, mocked him. Then the forest behind them rustled. 2 wild bears tore out from the trees and mauled 42 of them. Word spread quickly after that. This prophet was not one to mess with. In a small home nearby, a widow was on the verge of losing everything. Her husband had died, and the debt collectors were coming to take her 2 sons as slaves. All she had left was a tiny jar of oil. Elisha told her, "Go, borrow every empty jar you can. Don't hold back." She and her boys ran from house to house, collecting dozens of empty vessels. Once inside, she closed the door and began to pour. The oil didn't stop. Jar after jar, the oil kept flowing until the very last one was full. Then it stopped. With that miracle, she paid her debts and saved her sons. In Shunem, a wealthy woman often welcomed Elisha when he passed through town. She and her husband even built a small room for him on their roof: a table, a chair, a bed, and a lamp. When Elisha asked how he could bless her, his servant whispered, "She has no son, and her husband's getting old." Elisha told her, "By this time next year, you'll be holding a baby boy." And she did. But years later, that boy ran out to his father in the field, clutching his head. Within hours, he was gone. The woman didn't scream. She didn't cry. She laid her son on Elisha's bed, saddled a donkey, and rode straight to find him. Elisha followed her back. He climbed the stairs, shut the door behind him, and stretched out over the child, his eyes to the boy's eyes, his hands to his hands. The boy's body slowly warmed. Then, he sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. The miracles didn't stop there. Once, during a famine, Elisha's disciples unknowingly cooked poisonous herbs into a stew. Someone shouted, "There's death in the pot." Elisha tossed in a handful of flour and told them to eat. The stew was fine. Not a single person got sick. Another time, a man brought 20 loaves of bread to Elisha to feed 100 men. "It's not enough," his servant said. Elisha just replied, "Give it to them. There will be leftovers." And there were. But the story that shook everyone came from Syria. Naaman was a powerful general, respected, feared, wealthy, and a leper. A young servant girl from Israel told his wife, "There's a prophet in Samaria. He can heal him." Naaman arrived at Elisha's house with gold, silver, and a letter from his king. Elisha didn't even open the door. He just sent a message. "Go dip in the Jordan River 7 times, you'll be healed." Naaman was furious. "That's it? I thought he'd wave his hand and call on God." But his servants convinced him to try. Naaman stepped into the muddy water, once, twice, 5 times, 6. On the 7th, he came up, and his skin was clean. Just like that. The disease was gone. He returned to Elisha and offered all his treasures. Elisha refused, but his servant, Gehazi, had other plans. Secretly, he chased after Naaman, lied, and took the gifts for himself. When Elisha found out, he said, "Naaman's leprosy will now cling to you and to your descendants." Gehazi turned pale. His skin turned white like snow. He never recovered. Elisha's life didn't just echo Elijah's legacy. It multiplied it. He made iron float. He saw angelic armies and chariots of fire. Even after death, when a man's body touched Elisha's bones, the man came back to life. His story wasn't just about miracles. It was about a man who said yes to God when the mantle fell, a man who carried fire and passed it on.